European Parliament in Brussels, this afternoon the Open Doors organisation has presented its annual World Report on the persecution of Christians around the world. It's a report that was even worse than many people had expected. Persecution of Christians is on the rise in so many countries. I'm very lucky actually to have met at this particular event Joseph Janssen, who is an advocate with the Jubilee Campaign, a Dutch-based advocacy which campaigns against persecution of Christians around the world. Joseph, thank you very much for agreeing to speak to us. Can you tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing?
Yes, Jubilee Campaign is a human rights organization based Dutch. We also have a US office, and we try to promote religious freedom for all and also focus for persecuted Christians because of their religion, because of their identity. We try to give them legal aid and try to do advocacy in the international mechanism like European Union, United States, and at the United Nations in Geneva.
As expected, as always, the subject in the context of persecution of Christians of Pakistan arose. Now, I know that you're originally from Pakistan.
Yeah.
This is obviously a subject you know very well. We are seeing in Pakistan persecution is legalized, isn't it, through such as the blasphemy law. This is actually not an old law, but it's medieval in its style and in its structure. And under this law, many, many innocent people have been persecuted and indeed killed. The blasphemy law is discussed very often here in the European Parliament. And also what is discussed in this particular context is Pakistan's continuous, despite promises, continuous violations of human rights abuses. Would you like to comment on how they manifest themselves? What are we seeing at the moment?
Yes, it's a very good question and a very good point that you have started with actually blasphemy laws. You know, Pakistan blasphemy laws from 1986 when General Zia dictator increased the 295C, added into actually section where 295B and then added C, which carried death penalty for those who actually say anything, all just anybody can accuse somebody, will be presumed guilty, and that person has to go through the court and face death sentence in Pakistan. And it is actually from the last decades, years and years, it has been worsened in Pakistan. My own sister, I must say, that who spent 8 years in Pakistan prison, announced death sentence, and she was released after 2021 resolution of European Union 2021. So when we talk about blasphemy laws, it doesn't affect only the person who is actually accused for blasphemy, saying something like, say, he has insulted or said something falsely accused, said something against Prophet Muhammad or defamed the file or Quran pages. That person is accused, but not only that person particularly who is accused affected, but entire society, his family, entire society, area where he was living. And we have seen numerous attacks, numerous mob violence attacks where one person will accuse member of the minorities like Christian, Hindu, any other non-Muslim is accused for blasphemy, and the entire village has to face the consequences of the accusation. And we have seen the houses which has been burned, we have seen the churches which have been burned, and we have seen lives, people who have been burned alive in Pakistan. We have the example of there was a manager from Sri Lankan manager. He was lynched, and there were so many examples. We have seen in Sahiwal, we have seen multiple cities in Pakistan, like people who are simply accused for blasphemy, even falsely accused, have been burned alive in Pakistan by the mob violence. And this is something it is something very serious for religious minorities living in Pakistan as a coexistence, as a Pakistani. When somebody, simply accused and whole village will be attacked. We have seen many examples.
Did I hear you right? Did you say that your sister had received a death sentence?
Yes, my sister and my brother-in-law, they were uneducated and they were living in a church compound. They were simply, accused that they sent some blasphemous text message. Imagine, accusation was from not uneducated or illiterate person, but the accusation was a complaint. The person who was complained, he was the bar association, the president of the bar association, very educated, high-level person, a very high imam. How can a very poor lady who is working as a cleaner in a church or in a school and can send a blasphemous text message to that high rank? So this is the mindset, these extremists use such identities, such positions to accuse, to persecute, and that these people, so that they can be ensure that the Christians or person who is accused get convicted. And that's why they use imams and then such educated people to accuse these people. And my sister spent 8 years in horrible isolation. Somebody who is simply accused for blasphemy has to spend years and years and go through the court. And these people are not if we talk about the jail, for example, luckily, if that person who is accused saved by the mob violence, he can also face threats and even death attack in the prison. So that's why they have to be in an isolation cell, so that, in the Islamic ideology is like killing a blasphemer is opening the door for paradise to eternal life, give them redeem from their sin. So highest desire of Islamic person is to kill a blasphemer to get their salvation to enter into the heaven. So that's why government put these people in an isolated cell, because somebody who is motivated, who is Muslim, he can also attack these individuals inside the prison to get their salvation. So these individuals who are accused for blasphemy has to spend years and years in isolation. That's what my sister went through. That's why my brother-in-law was paralyzed, went through for 8 years in isolation cell.
A death sentence for blasphemy, the concept of a life in paradise, eternity in paradise for killing a blasphemer. It's impossible to imagine that this conversation is being had in the 21st century.
Yes.
So we're here in the European Parliament. The European Union, through the European Commission, gives a favoured trading status to Pakistan. It's called GSP Plus status. And one of the conditions of achieving this status, which is highly beneficial to the recipient country, highly beneficial, is a certain standard, a very high standard of when it comes to human rights. Pakistan has repeatedly failed to meet those standards, and yet despite the European Parliament overwhelmingly on 3 occasions calling for GSP Plus status to be suspended from Pakistan, the European Commission has completely ignored the will of the Parliament and thereby the will of the people, and has allowed Pakistan to maintain this favoured status. What message does this send to other radical Islamic states who may wish to have special status here in the European Union?
I think it's European Union has a very big role and responsibility to protect the dignity of human and the rights of human in Pakistan and around the world outside the EU. And when we talk about Pakistan, it's unfortunately dignity of human has been violated for years. And we have to do something. Of course, Pakistan's GSP Plus status put also obligations on Pakistan to implement 27 consensus, to promote good governance, to promote human rights, to promote the rights of religious freedom and freedom of religion or belief. And when we talk about these conventions, when we talk about these rights to life, rights to existence, coexistence, a fundamental right, and these rights have been violated from years and years, and we do have a responsibility. And unfortunately, it's not only violated, actually the situation is worsened. Previously, I must say that blasphemy, somebody simply can accuse to somebody, to someone that he did some blasphemy, was only charged with 295B or C or other 295A. But now extremist groups in Pakistan, extremist entities, they are forcing to the government to also charge with extra sections, which is terrorism, anti-terror sections 7. So imagine these people who are now recently accused for blasphemy accusations are not only facing blasphemy laws but also anti-terrorist acts. So these cases are not only in ordinary courts, but these cases are in anti-terrorist courts, which is extra threat, extra trouble, you can imagine how trauma and how pain these individuals, family or defenders have to go through to defend these individuals. Even in fact, this also tells the mentality, mindset, direction of the government, of the country. When National Assembly last year passed the resolution, a bill, which was saying, okay, previously, for example, if somebody defame Prophet Muhammad will be charged, but also his family members, his other friends or family members, if somebody will be disrespected, not only will be charged or punished for 3 years, but 10 years. And extremist group, I must say, TLP, Tehreek-e-Labbaik, is forcing government, is forcing Pakistan, its state, to apply anti-terrorist act. And who is going to defend? Who is going to stop that? And that's where EU function responsibility begin, to stop, to protect the rights of minorities. And unfortunately, we have seen now years and years. My sister is not the only one. I can mention Anwar Kanath, a Christian man, is behind the bar over 2 decades. And I said multiple times to multiple MEPs, I have given this request of Anwar Kanath to Commission. I sent this letter to EU delegation to Pakistan to advocate, do everything on her possible connections for the release this individual. But so far we are facing ignorance, emails, or these individuals are suffering in death row and in the isolation cells in Pakistan. I must say, like, EU must take stand and must do dialogue with Pakistan, must ensure that 27 convention obligations are implemented.
Pakistan, like many countries, is actually in violation not only just of the EU's requirements over GSP plus status, but also international treaties that it's voluntarily signed up to. For example, the United Nations Convention on Human Rights.
Yes.
It prohibits this behaviour, and yet still we see Pakistan just carrying on, the rest of the world carrying on as if nothing is going wrong there.
Unfortunately, last year was, as you mentioned, United Nations. Last year, Pakistan was UPR, it's Universal Periodic Overview, review. And then in that review and last 24 human rights session, multiple countries recommended to Pakistan repeal blasphemy laws, reform blasphemy laws, and the other issue, which is very serious human rights issues, our daughters who have been abducted, minor daughters who have been abducted and forcefully converted to Islam. And multiple countries, I think 15, if I'm not wrong, recommendations were given by EU countries and international states, recommended to Pakistan, criminalized forced conversion and protected the right of religious minority, and also reforms of blasphemy laws. Unfortunately, Pakistan, I think 7 or 11 recommendations have not accepted from the UN body. As Pakistan is signatory, as we mentioned, that on the women's status, signatory of International Convention, Pakistan has the responsibility to deliver, the rights and the obligations under these treaties. But unfortunately, who is going to ask? There is not any mechanism. EU and United States must keep any mechanism to enforce the compliance of their treaties, of their conventions. And until we not carry any mechanism and monitor proper and force these conventions, human rights violations are going to be worse in Pakistan. It's unfortunate. And marginalized groups are going to suffer more and more.
Well, the mechanism is there insofar as the Commission could choose to suspend that status. It could do this. The mandate is there from Parliament 3 times. If memory serves correct, I believe it was around about 95% of MEPs, certainly 90 plus of MEPs voted for suspension. And as I mentioned before, they've just been ignored. And I think that not only does this tell us a lot about Pakistan today, it raises a lot of unpleasant questions about the trajectory of other predominantly Islamic countries, but it also, the ignorance towards the will of the Parliament tells us something about the state of democracy in the European Union today. It's great to speak to you.
Thank you. Same here.
And we'll speak again soon.